Okay, how you doing, man? Let me first congratulate you on a pretty good first video. A lot of confidence, a lot of, it was a good first video. I'm going to take on some of your points, I think, take on your minor points before I take on your major point, which seems to be the sensible order of operations here. You said you don't believe in everything that the Bible has to say. Now, I think that every Christian could make that statement. I mean, it's totally impossible to believe in everything the Bible has to say because there's too many contradictions. I mean, there's too many overt contradictions. Some things can be chalked up to differing interpretation and stuff like that, and that's, weak but perhaps somewhat valid. But then there are other things that are totally contradictory, like it'll say in one chapter that Jebediah was Garamesh's father, and then the next chapter will say that Ezekiel was Garamesh's father, or whatever. And, they have two different versions of the creation story, where in one, man was created before plants and animals, and the other, plants and animals were created before man. So there's differing accounts, and it's just, so I mean, there's no way to possibly believe it all. Human beings are just not capable of that level of doublethink yet. But we're getting better at it. You believe in evolution. That's good. Many Christians do nowadays. It's getting harder and harder for them to deny evolution. So, I mean, I just don't understand, though. It kind of makes me wonder about your worldview, because you also refer to yourself later on in the video as being created. So you believe you evolved, but were still created. So I guess that you're one of those people that believe that God was the spark that lit the fire that became evolution. I just don't understand why God would do things in such a roundabout way. It just doesn't really make sense to me. And if you believe in evolution, then do you believe that God evolved from something, or do you believe that he was just always there? I don't understand the chronology here. So it just doesn't make sense to me to think that we evolved, but then at some point God put the divine spark in us to make us different. It just doesn't really add up. You said that your personal experience. You said your personal experience is just that, personal experience, and it cannot be used as proof for anyone else. And that's absolutely true. I'm amazed that you said it. It's so fucking staggeringly true. And that's exactly how I feel. But here's the thing. If you don't hold those personal anecdotal stories to be, if you don't think that those would be convincing to anyone else, why do you let them be convincing to you? It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, just because you experience something to be a certain way, it doesn't necessarily mean it happened that way. I mean, you have to be kind of questioning of things that you know are outside the realm of reality. I mean, I used to wake up in the middle of the night and see, entities walking around in my room, and I'm like, oh shit, aliens, or whatever. But, I really realized that I was just having what is called hypnopompic hallucinations. And that's what happens when you're just coming out of sleep and you kind of are half dreamingly see entities in your room, and you feel a really strong presence like in your chest, and oh my god. And you also coupled with something I have called night paralysis. I don't really have it much anymore, but I used to have it all the time. And it's when you can't move when you wake up and you can't move your body, and you feel kind of a tingling sensation in your legs, and you feel like strongly that there is a presence in the room with you. And if I were to just take that literally, I would assume that there must be a presence in my room, I must be getting abducted by aliens or being visited by demons or something like that, instead of just relying on the logical explanation that my brain is just misfiring. So I wouldn't, so I mean, it's easy to fall into that trap of, oh my god, everything I perceive must be exactly as I perceive it. But that's not always the case. I mean, you have to look at a general consensus view of reality for the most part, because our brains do misfire from time to time. You said atheists have faith in science. I already kind of covered that in a video I did called Faiththeism. It's on go to my channel. It's one of the first 4, I think, still currently. But you can find it on there. And you said science has a bad track record. which is true, which is very true. However, I think religion has an infinitely worse track record, and if you look at science's track record for the last 100 years alone, it's pretty goddamn impressive. I mean, you're watching me right now on a device that would have been seen as magical to someone just 100 years ago. I mean, this would have been mind-blowing. So, I just don't see how, I just don't see how you can deny something that has given us so much, that is so tangible at this point. And you believe in evolution, and you obviously, you believe that there are scientific wonders all around us. I mean, cars and you just look at automobiles and computers and microchips and missiles and every fucking thing we have is just so mind blowing. We were still fucking shitting in shacks 75, 80 years ago for the most part, and now everyone has indoor plumbing. It's just like, I think we take a lot of these things for granted. We just think we've always had them at some level because we can't really comprehend the passage of time like that. We're not really built to really grasp those concepts. So we kind of just feel like everything was always as it is now, but it's not. And science is largely to credit for that. I'm gonna do another video about science's track record versus religion's track record. I'm going to do one of my pre-scripted presentation videos so that I can really give it the response it deserves, because it is important, and I'm glad you brought it up. You said that the scientists think the Earth. Scientists used to think the Earth was flat. Everyone used to think the Earth was flat. Even if you are just a farmer in the field, even if you didn't give it any concern, you just thought the Earth was flat because if you're standing on it, it looks fucking flat. And you think of gravity as something that pulls down, not pulls in a circle, like it does. But by the 1st century, people think a lot of people think that we didn't know the world was round until Columbus sailed around the ocean, but that's actually an author's literary creativity, little kind of attributing. That's a misattribution. Most of the enlightened world by the 1st century A.D. knew that the Earth was round. It had been mathematically proven. A lot of people say that Pythagoras suggested it, but there's not much evidence for that. But some people say he did. But what's known is by the 1st century, we pretty much knew the Earth was round. Now the Bible does make constant references to the 4 corners of the earth and such, and that when Jesus stood upon the mountain, you could see all the kingdoms of the earth, which would suggest a flat Earth. So it seems to me like the religious people held on to the flat Earth idea a lot longer than the non-religious people, than the scientists did. Scientists were persuaded by evidence, religious people, most of them weren't. And it seems to me like also that there's this thing called the Flat Earth Society. It's a bunch of fundamentalist Christians that still believe that the Earth is flat. To this day, despite huge amounts of evidence. That just goes to show you that you could prove evolution conclusively, absolutely, 100%, no chance in hell of it being wrong, and there would still be people that denied it, because there's still people that deny that Earth is fucking round. So we have no chance of ever convincing everybody. You said you don't believe in hell, so maybe you're not a Christian. You said the problem is I don't understand your stance. It's really getting confusing to me, because you talk about the Bible and how you get your moral cues from that book, but you don't believe in hell, which is one of the main things Jesus talked about. If you were a Jew, I could see that, because there's really not much mention of hell in the Old Testament. It's really not put